Hey, hi Sabrina, it's Andrea. Okay, so this is a cool document. I think this is a pretty good way to sort of collect things. And this is exactly what I was looking for because I don't have any real idea where to start either because we just sort of have to like dance around and figure out um, what it is that's important to you, really, and sort of maybe do some prioritizing or maybe look at some of your design and see like where you shouldn't even be trying to make that effort. There's other areas that like work to your strengths, not to your weaknesses kind of idea. And yeah, but some of this stuff, I mean, is totally like, I think that some of these things could be grouped together. So, like, when you're doing two and this one, well, communication skills kind of goes with the know when to talk, know when not to talk thing. Um, Somewhat. I mean, some of that there's actually a video I could probably dig up for you um, that's more about like business communication. Um, that could be interesting. But anyway, some of these like consistently earning money, improving communication skills. I'm not sure about the time management part. I'll have to look more at your design because I know for me it's not even, and your mom too. And this might be a right mind thing, which I know yours is left. But time management isn't necessarily like something to improve. It's just, I guess it'd be interesting to talk about what it is you like. Let's say it was time management was improved, then what? Like, what's the benefit to it for you in your mind? Um, I'd be curious. I mean, this improved relationship with family, and I don't know which part of the family, and we could talk about that some if you want. Um, that's sort of like its own standalone thingy because first if you've worked on yourself, then this will or will not happen, but it won't matter as much to you, if that makes any sense. um, at some point, and you're still kind of young, so at some point it becomes, and some people never get to this point, but at some point it becomes, you know the relationship that I have with people, and human design will help because it'll help you understand other people, and I'm sure it already has quite a bit. Um, but again, what does that look like to you is the question, and why is it important is kind of the other question. Um, but what I think is that when things like these first two things in particular happen, like as these continue to hone and develop, the self esteem stuff will be a natural byproduct of that. And so I don't think that you seek to improve your self esteem. I think you seek to build your confidence around the moving in the world, and then your self esteem is a natural progression of that. Um, Meet like-minded people. That's we could think about how you might get exposed to more folks, and it might be interesting to do like a subsection of this. What are what is what are what do like-minded people look like to you? Like, who is that? You know, get your GED. This is the kind of thing I've been actually working with a little bit with. Well, Alita has like a half a credit that she didn't finish in high school, and she's decided she doesn't care, so she's probably never going to get her GED. Morgan actually just went back to school, but had been thinking about her GED. She still has 2 years, 2.5 years to go. So, she's a little bit younger than Haley, I think. But anyway, she had been thinking about her GED, and we'd been talking about kind of a strategy for going forward and just getting it done. Um, One of the things is to just go ahead and, like, I don't know if you've gotten a study book or if you've um, there's probably courses and things, or sort of some kind of tutor situation that could happen. But my approach to this kind of thing is just go take the test and see where it is that you need to actually, and this is a situation where you end up having to work on your weaknesses, not your strengths, and that's what all of school is about in anyway. But if you would work on, if you just went go and take the test, and who knows, maybe you'd even pass it, but assume that you won't, and what you're looking for is are the things that where you'd need to get a boost of some kind, those areas, and then you won't be so sweating the details on all of it, and you just kind of you know chip away at the parts. And I think you can take it as often as, I don't know how many times you can take it, but that's the other, we talked about it, she and I talked about it, we were, she kind of was on the fence about whether to do that route, or finish go back to her charter school. And so for the moment, she's back at the charter school, but who knows? Whatever. Um, Massage school sounds like fun if it's something you're really interested in. What does it actually take to have that happen? I mean, do you actually need a GED to get into massage school? Is that the point of the GED? Um, I don't know. Maybe you know. Um, Hobby and or work that makes you happy probably takes exposure to different things, especially with your triple split. I would imagine there's a um, being, does that mean being with people doing something? Does that mean, uh, and I think it might, um, I don't know if you do, like, do you do crafts? Do you do sports? Do you do gardening? Do you, like, what is it that draws your attention in any kind of general sense? Would be good to know, because I don't know any of this about you. Complete a story. Uh, you'll have to explain me more about that, because I mean, yeah, you'll have to explain me more about that. Travel more is a good thing. You probably, I know that Haley can't necessarily go anywhere just yet because of the custody stuff, but you might want to go ahead and pursue getting your passport in order so that you are prepared. They last for 10 years once you're an adult. So you could just sort of be ready for the moment to arrive and be able to respond quickly if you want to when the opportunities uh, come about. Um, I recommend that to everybody who thinks that they want to travel, because you can't have the freedom to make that decision in any short amount of time without having the passport already in place. I missed a trip to Mexico last year because I had lost mine, or I thought I had, and I didn't have time to replace it. So, um, anyway, this blog website, the technical parts of it, we could do in a couple of hours. Um, you probably, the way that I do them is I start thinking about domains that might be suitable for me. Then you want to kind of settle on a domain. Um, it's easiest if you hit on the right domain the first time, but if you don't, you can always move the content. It's just kind of a pesky thing, but it's not impossible. There's no, like, once you've chosen it's forever kind of thing. Um, what else? Find happiness. I bet the find happiness and the self-esteem and that sort of gets tied into all this other stuff once you sort of have. Now, for me, it's a lot of trial and error, and I know that you don't have that third line in your top four um, in your chart, but it's it's not a bad thing, I think, to sort of taste a lot of different things, and then you can, you'll know ultimately, yeah, no, not that anymore, or that was interesting, no, that's not going to happen again, kind of thing. It's a lot, for me, it ends up being a lot of, yeah, no, that didn't work. It doesn't have to be that way for you, but you still have to be exposed to multiple things, and, your mom and your sister, the sort of the unit that you guys have is lovely in one respect, but in another respect, it's pretty tunnel visioned, and you don't have exposure to things other than that. I think you probably get that. Um, so this filmmaking thing, that sounds like fun. Have you done any? I mean, you could start doing like 3-minute documentaries or 10-minute documentaries or something now. There's probably online stuff. I have no idea about like local schools that might offer just a class or something that you could start getting your feet wet, start meeting people who are doing similar work. Um, you could start a YouTube channel so that you have a place to plop different bits and pieces. There's probably, I know you don't like Facebook much, but there are probably supportive spaces that could be a thing in. There's actually sort of it's not a documentary exactly, but there's a call or a really, what do I want to say? There's a, a use and a real market really for people who can do sort of story videos about those particular marketers, so that what they're doing is they're building, maybe I can show you some, they're building like sort of a know, like, and trust in by sharing their story and their, before my life was like this, then I found this, and then now it's like this kind of a scenario. Um, that could be interesting. I mean, I know a couple of different videographers. I don't know if there is much about the documentary part, which is actually more about storytelling. And that there is quite a bit of storytelling content in the builder level of Legendary that your mom bought. I don't know if you've looked at any of that yet, but that's sort of like a commercial application to that skill set. Even if it wasn't what you ended up wanting to do all the time, it might be a place to sort of play around and get your bearings in. Um, make money with Legendary Marketer. I think that could be fun. Balance. Talking, not talking. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, so always coming up with ideas. So the ideas, I don't know where you've put them down, but if you wanted to have maybe down below all of this, like an idea section, so that just as they come to you, you have at least a second set of eyeballs on them. Because I come up with ideas all the time too, and sometimes it's more like they need an audience for the ideas. They're not necessarily for me to do. They're more for for to stir somebody else's imagination. And um, I don't know how you feel about that. I know that sometimes people feel kind of um, uh, attached to their ideas, and like, well, if somebody hears my idea, then they're gonna go and run with it without me, kind of thing. And which is kind of normal. But there's actually another side to that, that if you become sort of a font of ideas, that you become kind of like the go-to person for ideas, is a possibility, kind of thing. And there are ways to monetize stuff like that too. So, then you have another, read more books, unique nonfiction. Have you read many biographies? Because biographies are kind of a cool way to, um, I don't know, kind of see what the world is like through other people's histories. I guess is the best way to explain it. And especially if there's any interest in the business side of things, it's really important to build up your your. Actually, this might help all of your self-esteem too. All of the personal development that's built into like the Legendary type of education, the Legendary Marketer stuff. You might want to try on for size that 10 o'clock call, and it doesn't have, you don't necessarily have to be in there on 10 every morning unless it's something you want to have a regular date. But there's a page in the Legendary blog that has all of the recordings, and you might see if you like to listen to Larry. He's a little bit, he definitely has like his own Christian lens that he looks at things through, but it's mostly about personal personal development and personal, I would say, people helping, usually people who are twice your age, find that source of personal responsibility and not make excuses and blah blah blah. So I don't listen to it very often because he is a manifesting generator, and a lot of his perspective is about doing, 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 and it doesn't really suit the projector approach to living. But it might suit you, and it might be something to try for a couple weeks and see if anything um, gets sparked in you around any of the ideas that he comes up with. He does have a really good skill set for telling like things, like explaining things, and like having a topic and then getting a parable or a short story around, or sometimes a funny example, so he'll tell a story about his wife, or he'll tell a story about that he'd heard somewhere else, and it'll, loop back to the lesson that he's kind of giving. What do you think about videos? I know your mom is, well, maybe not as resistant as she was a year ago, but she hasn't said, yeah, I want to try that. Um, but they are really the shortest, if you're going to work online at all, they're absolutely the shortest path to having a body of work that's easy for people to quickly know, like, trust, which is everything that goes with um, making sales to individuals. What else? I don't know. Oh, so continue learning. So you have a lot of different learning things that you're interested in, which is great. Um, I wonder which, like, I get that human design is kind of like ongoing and intermingled with things. I wonder, of the ones that might make money most quickly, which looked like, if you had to choose between like studying for massage school and studying for and doing some kind of filmmaking something, like for say a 90 day period to 6 months, for like the next 6 months, which would you choose is kind of what I'd like to know. And legendary can kind of wrap around pretty much anything, because everybody has this desire to like do what they want to do but also be making money, and it shows people a different model, and that's what we're selling, is the education of how to do that model. Whether they end up doing it or not, it's it's kind of like a study. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. For me, it's always been kind of like the math that people never learned around how money gets leveraged and how you can create uh, situations where money is working for you instead of you working for money. But that's another conversation too. So I don't know what I just said, because I just sort of started rambling. And let me know what pops out for you. I really think that this always coming up with ideas thing, it would be really good to just sort of like just put them out there on a list. Probably make a new document. Well, you don't need to make a new document. Just start down on the next page. Like, make it the next page. This is the idea. What do we want to call it? I don't have anything clever. Ideas go here. And just start making that list, and just don't have any preconceived notions about any of it. Just put it there, and like, just to like relieve your mind of it and not to lose it. And we can look back at the list, and at some of them you may end up just like, especially with, I have an emotional, my authority is emotional also. So, things that seem like such a good idea one day will be like, what the heck was I thinking about, another day? But then don't just ditch it that moment. Like, just leave it there and just let it sit. And if it sticks through several of those, up and down, up and down, up and down, activities in your body, really, then maybe it's a yeah to kind of look at further. And then it sounds like, there's the need for ultimately a team of people to implement things, whatever those things end up being. And so don't feel like you ever, will forever have to be doing things only on your own, that kind of deal. Um, yeah, so that's where I'm at. It's a cool list. That's all I meant was that it was a cool list. I think I meant that it was nice that it was pretty thorough and had a lot of stuff to work around, to work with and work through. Um, these maybe you could cluster these. I don't know if that's even possible. There's probably a way to kind of like more categorize these things. So maybe do now, do later, I don't know. I also would like to know. Here's another thing. So if you can expand on any of these, where would you like to travel to? What kind of story? What kind of stories? We already touched on that. Give me a little bit idea of, so just make like maybe sub lists to these. I think you can do it like this and then move it over. Yeah. So you can make like a sub list. You see how I did that? So I just made this is like an indent. Maybe you already know that. Anyway, this is way too long. It probably will never be this long again. And yeah, so let's figure out something. Once you have kind of a handle on like a topic, like maybe if you're making films or making documentaries or learning how to do that stuff, you end up having a blog that goes with it. That's fine and that's easy. I'm telling you, the technical side of all of this is nothing for me to help you with. Um, so, and I think in the process of all of this, this is kind of like the another byproduct. So there's things that are like byproducts of living a life that's really one that suits you, self-esteem, happiness, ideally meeting people that you click with and so forth. So, you know, well, it'll work out. Yeah, so maybe sublists to this stuff would be nice, and maybe let me know if you had to choose one thing to learn for like the next 6 months. What would it be? If you can, or maybe a couple of, kind of give me a triage of that. Like what would really call to you? Like if you were going to start, say in May, and work through to what does that make? Work through to November. So okay. This is helpful. I'll talk to you later. Bye.